Well, good Yontif, everybody. Good Yontif, Rabbi Eli. Good Yontif, Cantor Josh. Chazan Emmanuel. There you go. He's coming back. And good Yontif, everyone who is joining us right now as we are beginning our evening second day Seder with the Perlman brothers. You all know what we look like, except for the one up there who has his mask on. You are the few, the proud, and the Perlmans. You can tell that the one with the mask on is the oldest. The one who is Chazan Perlman, Emmanuel Perlman, is right below Rabbi Eli, and our youngest brother is Cantor Josh. We welcome everybody from all around that are joining us tonight on YouTube, Facebook, and right here in the Zoom room. So we welcome you all. We are going to begin with a quick Marav service, a very quick Marav service, and then we will begin our second night Seder. So for those of you that are joining us, it is your choice whether you wish to rise when we say it's appropriate to rise. You can do it if you wish or not. And we're going to be doing this quickly so we can get to the Seder. Baruch hu et Adonai hamavara.
Baruch le'olam va'ed.
Baruch Adonai hamvarach le'olam va'ed. Baruch Adonai olam v'shavu. Umavir yom umevi laila mavdil ben yom uven laila Adonai tzvaot shemo el chai v'kayam tamid yimloch aleinu le'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Amari varavim avat olam beit Yisrael amcha hatatzon. Ki hem chayenu v'yarach yomeinu v'hem negayamam v'layla v'avatcha atas mimenu leolamim. Baruch atah Adonai ohev amo Yisrael. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. Adonai Elohechem emet, emet. Umachuto b'ratzon kiblu aleihem Moshe v'nei Yisrael l'chanu shira b'simcha rabba v'yamru chulam michamocha ba'elim Adonai michamocha nedar b'kodesh Nora tehilot osef eleh Malchutecha ra'u v'necha b'kayam lifnei Moshe Zeilianu v'yameru Adonai yimloch le'olam va'ed v'nemar ki v'nai et Yaakov g'lo mi'achazak mimenu Baruch atah Adonai Ga'al Yisrael hashkiveinu Eloheinu l'shalom v'hamidei makin l'chaim f'rosol ha'nischat shalom v'chavatak mi'besav v'napanav v'shalom v'chavatak v'shalom Ushmor tzeitenu uboenu l'chayim u'shalom yataviyad olam ufros aleinu sukat shalomecha Baruch atah Adonai Apore Sukkot Shalom Aleinu, V'al Kol Amo Yisrael, V'al Yerushalayim. We normally rise, if you wish, Vayidaber Moshe et Moed Adonai, El Bnei Yisrael, Yikadal V'yikadash Shemei Rabbah. B'yama dibrachirute b'yamach malchute b'chayechon b'yamachon b'chayechon beit Yisrael b'hagala u'bizman karib b'yamru amen yehei shmei Rabba mevarach le'olam omei omaya yibarach v'yishtabach v'yipar v'yitmah v'yitnaseh v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shmei l'kodesha b'richu le'yehei la min kol b'chata b'shirata atush b'chata v'nechemata damiram b'yama v'yamru amen. The Amida will be silent. We will say this silently. If you wish to go and join us, go right ahead, Hebrew or English. We no longer say Mashiv Harov. If you're following with the Seder, page 48. Yirkadal v'yirkadash shemei Rabbah v'yamad yibrachirutei v'yamach malchutei b'chayechon v'yamechon b'chayechon beit Yisrael b'agala b'zman kariv v'yamru amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mevarach le'olam olomei omaya. Yibarach v'yishtabach v'yipar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yitadar 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 shmei l'kodesha b'richu le'la min kol v'chata b'shirata tush v'chata v'nechemata damiram b'yama v'yamru amen. Tigav sloton v'oton d'cho Yisrael kadam v'mahal d'yishmai v'yamru amen. Yehei shlam rabba min shmai v'chaim aleim v'ko Yisrael v'yamru amen. Oseh shalom b'mramav v'yaseh shalom aleinu v'al ko Yisrael v'yimaru amen. And we'll skip Kiddush because we're doing it at the Seder, page 51. Aleinu l'shabech l'tona korotei v'l'misad v'shalom. But nachnu korim v'shalom v'yimaru kodesh baruch shetashmai v'shalom. Okay, nekabel echad כי מלכות שכהים תמלוך בכבוד, ככתוב בתורתך אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד. ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו אחד, For those of you that are reciting the mourner's Kaddish, either for a yortzeit or a loved one, we invite you to rise and recite the words of the Kaddish with us. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, v'alma divra chirutei, v'yamlich malchutei, b'chayechon uv'yomechon uv'chaye dechol beit Yisrael ba'agala uv'izman kariv v'yimru amen. Yehei shmei rabba mevarach la'olam ulomei almaya. Yibarach v'yishtabach v'yipa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yithadar v'yitalev v'yithalal shemei d'kudisha barichu la'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tushbachata v'nechemata da'amiran v'alma v'yimru amen. Yehei shalom rabba min shemaya v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'yimru amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'yimru amen. And with that, we'll end our Ma'ariv service. There's no reason for us to do Yigdal because we have a whole Seder to go through now. And again, I wish to welcome everybody. I introduced my brothers, Rabbi Eli, Chazan Emmanuel, and Cantor Josh. For those of you that are joining us from elsewhere, I'm Rabbi Richard, or sometimes you'll even hear my brothers call me Rick. And we welcome you here this evening to our Seder.
We call them other things too, but we'll hold that back for now.
This is a very true statement.
I also want to remind everybody that we were supposed to be on a cruise this year. And guess what? They made it. And look at me. I fell out of the boat.
In any event, how are things in Baltimore, Chazan Emmanuel?
Very nice here. It's pouring rain, thunderstorm, but it's very nice because we're indoors.
That's it. We are free. So again, this is our second annual and hopefully our last required pandemic Zoom Passover Seder. You never know, we might be able to do it next year with families sitting around our tables and whatnot, but we're still in many cases, because of Pikuach Nefesh, in the case of keeping people safe, we're making sure that we are together safe at our Zoom, YouTube, and Facebook Seder. So welcome everybody tonight. I'm going to turn things over to Rabbi Eli, who's going to actually get things started with one of our favorite songs. I will warn those of you that are wondering about the time. We did start with a Ma'ariv service. It was very short, very quick. But generally from this point on till we start eating, I know many people want to know about that, right? When do I get the food ready? Yeah, Naomi's smiling. I see it. Okay. When do we put the food on?
I thought that was the fifth question.
That was the fifth question?
Yeah, that's the fifth question.
Well, the other question is this. Why do we celebrate Pesach? The answer is?
That's the first question.
Because we are free.
I don't know. It's not that free to be free. It's very expensive to be free.
This is true. For those of you wondering about the meal, we should be putting food in our mouth in approximately 1 hour from now. Rabbi Eli. Unmute yourself, Rabbi Eli, otherwise we'll hear nothing. And that actually might not be a bad thing.
People prefer it when I'm muted. They ask me to go on mute all the time. There's no Seder like our Seder. There's no Seder I know. Everything about it is halachic. Nothing that the Torah won't allow. Listen how we read the whole Haggadah. It's all in Hebrew, 'cause we know how. There's no Seder like our Seder. We tell a tale that is swell. Moses took the people out into the heat. They baked the matzah while on their feet. Now, isn't that a story that just can't be beat? Let's go on with the show.
Boom, boom, boom. All right, at this time, we are going to light the candles, which they've already been lit here. So for those of you that have lit your candles in your home or are lighting your candles in your home, of course, please do so. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lahadlik ner shel yom tov. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shehecheyanu v'kiyamanu v'higiyanu lazman hazeh. I hope no one burned their fingers. We did that pretty fast. We are going to ask Cantor Josh now to bless the children who may be at our tables or in our Zoom rooms or here in our hearts.
Yisimcha Elohim ke'Ephraim v'chim Naseh. May God make you as Ephraim and Manasseh. Yisimech Elohim ke'Sarah Rivka Rachel v'Leah. May God make you as Sarah, Rebecca, Rachel, and Leah. Yivarechecha Adonai v'yishmerecha. May God bless you and keep you. Ya'er Adonai panav elecha v'yichunecha. May God shine his light upon you and be gracious to you. Yisa Adonai panav elecha v'yasem lecha shalom. May God shine his light upon you and be gracious to you and grant us all shalom. Grant us all peace. We all say amen.
Amen ve'amen. Rabbi Eli is going to explain the Seder plate at this time. You'll notice that I'm wide-angled, so I will probably be able to point to different things for you, Rabbi Eli, as you explain the Seder plate.
Appreciate that very much. You're going down, you're going to stop on each thing, correct? First, we have the karpas. What is karpas? It's a green vegetable that is usually called parsley. I have some here on my Seder plate. This is parsley. You can't see it because the water won't let you. But this is what we're going to dip into the salt water pretty soon. You want to go to the next one? The next one is charosis. Charosis is a sweet fruit symbolizing mortar. If you remember, we couldn't use the straw when we made mortar. So we remember that by making it sweet for us. And here's the sweet charosis.
But don't mix it with the chopped liver or you'll get charosis of the liver.
That's right. Absolutely. That's correct. And then the maror, of course. Where can I find my maror? Oh, God, here it is. This is my maror. It's a beautiful one. And this one has a great fragrance to it. And it's delicious. I already had some last night. And I'm looking forward to having some more tonight because it cleans out my sinuses and I can breathe cleanly and beautifully. It's wonderful. I'll put that away for now. The chazarat is another bitter herb. The reason for the bitter herb is to remind us of the harsh times that we suffered. Okay, next is the zeroa, which is the shank bone, which I happen to have here. A wonderful little shank bone. This one comes from a lamb, like they should, and it's roasted. And why? It reminds us of the Pesach. That's what that actually is. That's the Pesach, which, you know, we call it Passover in English, but the Hebrew word is Pesach, which doesn't mean Passover. It's the Paschal sacrifice. It's the Paschal lamb that we sacrificed. And we even did it during the temple times, but we did it when God said, this was the first commandment to the Jewish people as a people. Up until then, it was all to individuals. And then the first thing was to celebrate the new moon and to sacrifice the Paschal lamb. The beitzah, or the egg, this is a roasted egg as opposed to a hard-boiled or scrambled or whatever you like. This one is roasted. And it reminds us of the sacrifices. It also reminds us of the cycle of life. Next. Salt water. Yeah, we do have salt water on the table. And behind me, there's plenty of salt water. I know nobody else went on this cruise, but I decided to go by myself. So I'm sitting on the balcony having a Seder all by myself. And here's all the salt water I could drink right here in the ocean. And we dip twice. Some people use vinegar. I never did that. But you dip twice in the vinegar, the green, so that it reminds us of the sweat and the tears. And we're going to go through that one more time. And of course, we have matzah. Matzah is not really on the Seder plate, but we all know what the matzah is. It reminds us of the unleavened bread. First of all, that we claim that the children didn't have time to make, which I don't believe. But on the other hand, it says in the Torah, you must eat unleavened bread. And that was even before we left. And in a minute, like we said, within the hour, we're going to start eating chicken soup and gefilte fish or egg drop soup, whatever you eat. And we're going to have a very good meal. Okay?
Okay. All right. So there is an order to the Seder, as we all know. And Chazan Emmanuel will be telling us what that order is.
Kadesh Orechatz
karpas yachatz, magin erochza, motzi matzah, maror ekarech, shulchan orech, safon barech, hallel, ner tamid.
So that's the order. And we will now be starting with the first one, the Kaddish, the Kiddush. So make sure at this time, I have already filled my cup of Elijah. The Elijah cup has been currently filled, so it's all ready to go. So let's get your first cups filled. You'll notice, ladies and gentlemen, that we are using in this house the official brand of Passover, Manischewitz. But make sure that yours has a little P on it. Otherwise, it has kitniot in it. It might have corn syrup in it. If you so choose to eat kitniot, that is your business. If you choose not to, then go get another brand of wine.
He is actually for the Perlman Seder.
That's correct. It is kosher for the Perlman Seder. We 4 months out of the year, Manischewitz makes it with only sugar, and the rest of the year they do put corn syrup in it. Okay, for the Kiddush, it is customary, if you choose to stand. If you would like to just sit, that would be fine. But remember, when you do drink the wine, you drink it leaning at the end to the left. Chazan.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, borei pri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bachar banu mikol ha'am, v'romemanu mikol hashon, v'kiddushanu v'mitzvotav. Vatiten lanu Adonai Eloheinu v'yava moadim l'simcha chagim uzemanim l'sason et yom chag hamatzot hazeh zman cherutenu mikra kodesh Zecher Litzion Mitzrayim Kibanu Bacharta Viotanu Kidashta Mikol Hanim Moadei Kochecha Vesimecha Vesason Hinechatanu Baruch atah Adonai Mikadesh Yisrael Be'azmanim Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam Shehechiyanu V'kiyemanu V'giyanu Lazeman Hazeh.
Amen. Again, sitting. If you are standing, we sit and we drink our cup of wine leaning to the left, which reminds us of the fact that we're free and we are the kings and the queens in our own lives today.
And today we are joined by the chicken of the sea.
It's not Purim, Rabbi. It's not Purim.
Yeah, but his name is Gefilter.
I have to tell you, tonight we're blessed with Professor Marvin Wilson and his wife Polly are joining us. And later on at the second half, he's actually going to be joining us for part of the Seder. And Professor Wilson, I want to apologize for my chicken brother. So the first thing we're going to do here now is we're going to wash our hands. This is a ritual wash without a blessing. Normally when you wash your hands before you eat challah or motzi, before motzi, you do say a blessing, and then you say the motzi. In this case, this is just kind of get things going, get things started. It's an opportunity for us to begin the process of our Seder, begin the process of the service. And that's one of the reasons why we're all wearing a kittel. You'll notice my brothers and I are all wearing white. not just shirts, but we're also wearing a robe, a kittel robe that is beginning our service. So we wash our hands. We will not say the blessing. And then those of you in your Seder tables, you'll be passing around. You pass around some of the karpas. I'm going to wash. And if you wish to wash, you may wash if you wish. Remember, washing is up to you. It's totally optional. You take the cup of water and you pour it 3 times over each hand.
And it takes 20 seconds.
That was 18. All right, we take the karpas, we dip it in the salt water. Generally, we dip it twice, and we pass it to the person who's sitting on the other side of the table who doesn't want to be in the camera. And that would be my lovely bride, Kit. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei pari ha'adama. We generally eat this leaning to the left, by the way. Even if you tend to go to the right, you have to lean to the left tonight. Because we are free. All
But
right.
you can eat it in both sides of your mouth.
There you go. Rabbi Eli, why don't you explain why we're dividing the 3 matzahs?
We're not dividing the 3 matzahs. We're just dividing the middle matzah.
Well, you know what I mean.
The matzahs, the 3 matzahs are here. Normally on a Friday evening, we get 2 pieces of challah, or 2 pieces of manna we're given, 1 for Friday night and 1 for Shabbos. And on Pesach, we have 3 pieces of matzah. Why? 1 is for the bread of the afflicted, or the poor bread, and so we have 3. The 1 for the night, the 1. The other reason for it is we have 3 pieces of matzah to represent the Kohen, the Levi, and the Yisrael. But we break the middle matzah, which is the bread of affliction. We break it in half, and we hide. Someone hides the middle, the half that you broke off, for the Afikomen, which we'll eat after dinner. The Afikomen is not a Hebrew word; it's a Greek word, which implies that it's a game. And it allowed us to have a Seder because the Greeks wouldn't allow us to do things unless it was a game. So we turned this into a game. We called it the Afikomen, and everything was fine. And that's why we break the middle matzah and put it away.
I have the matzah in my bag. I've broken it in half. I already messed up my matzah. I'm going to hide this matzah because while I have no children here, it's still tradition. And you have to do tradition. And boys, I think you might remember the year that I actually found the Afikomen. Do you remember the year I found the Afikomen? I do, because I remember our parents of blessed memory, our beloved parents, gave me this book the year I finally found the Afikomen. It was April 16th, 1965. It took me that long to find the Afikomen.
By the way, our father gave each of us one of those, the same Haggadah, as we were reaching the right age.
And now we will continue with our service. Normally, we hold up the first piece of matzah as this is now recited.
Halachma, halachma anya, di achalo, achalo aftana, beyara, beyara, de Mitzrayim, beyara, beyara, de Mitzrayim, kol dichmene yete veyechol, kol ditzrich yete veyisaf, hashata hacha l'shana haba, v'yara de Yisrael, hashata avdei Lishana haba b'nei chorim. This is the blood of the bread of affliction, which our ancestors ate in the land of Egypt. Let all who are hungry come and eat. Let all who are in need come and celebrate Pesach. Today we are here, next year in the land of Israel. Today we are slaves, next year we will be free.
And normally, we ask 4 questions, especially at the Seder. I know we've already done the 5th one. I apologize for that. But usually the youngest child who is present will ask the 4 questions. The youngest child today is Cantor Josh.
Now, I remember that I used to start sweating when my father would say, it's time to fill the second cup.
Exactly.
So I think we have to fill the second cup so I have a minute to breathe.
Exactly. Thank you for reminding me because I always forget.
I never forget.
Well, that's
I was
why
the youngest for the longest time.
That's because you would never let me forget. Mother always loved you best. Anyway.
He was a
Never made
blonde
any
like she
argument
was.
about that.
He was a blonde like her. That's why she never.
Why she had no more children after me, she finally got it right.
It took long enough.
Yeah, well, I have to amend that 1 hour thing, folks. It's probably going to be longer. Anyway, Vashtana, the 4 questions.
Nishtana halayla hazeh mikol halelot shebechol halelot anu ochlin chametz umatzah halayla hazeh kulo matzah halayla hazeh kulo matzah shebechol halelot anu ochlin she'ar yirakot halayla hazeh maror halayla hazeh maror shebechol halelot einanu matpilin afilu pa'am echad halayla hazeh shetei te'amim halayla hazeh shetei te'amim shebechol halelot anu ochlin ben yoshvinu ben mesubin
Cha cha
ben
cha.
yovenu ben mesubin
Cha cha cha.
halayla hazeh kulanu mesubin halayla hazeh kulanu mesubin.
And the answer to all of the questions, Avadim Hayinu.
Avadim hayinu ata b'nei chorin Avadim hayinu ata b'nei chorin Avadim hayinu ata b'nei chorin b'nei chorin.
Chazan Manuel.
Avadim hayinu ata b'nei chorin Avadim hayinu ata b'nei chorin Avadim hayinu ata b'nei chorin Avadim hayinu lefaro b'Mitzrayim v'yotzienu Adonai lemisham b'yad chazaka v'zroa nituya v'lo lo hotzi HaKadosh Baruch Hu et avoteinu b'Mitzrayim harei anu v'aneinu u'bnei v'aneinu meshobadim hayinu lefaro b'Mitzrayim v'afilu kulanu Chachamim, kulanu נבונים כולנו, זקנים כולנו יודעים את התורה, מצווה עלינו לספר ביציאת מצרים, וכל אמר ונספר מציאת מצרים, הרי זה משובח. We were slaves in Egypt, and the Lord freed us from Egypt with a mighty hand. Had not the Holy One liberated our people from Egypt, then we, our children and our children's children, would still be enslaved to this day. Maaseh Rabbi Elazar, Rabbi Yoshua, Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah, Rabbi Akiva, Rabbi Tarfon, Shahayom Esobin B'nei V'rak, Ve'ayom Esaprim B'tziat Mitzrayim, Koloto Halayla, Ad Sheba'u Talmideihem, V'yameru lahem Rabotenu, Higia Zeman Keriyat Shema Shel Shacharit.
אמר רבי אלעזר בן עזריה, הרי אני כבן 70 שנה, ולא זוכיתי, שתאמר יציאת מצרים בלילות, עד שדרשה בן זומא, שנאמר, למען תזכור את יום צאתך מארץ מצרים, כל ימי חייך הימים, כל ימי חייך לילות, וחכמים אומרים, ימי חייך עולם הזה, כל ימי חייך להביא לימות המשיח.
Okay, we're coming to the children, the 4 sons, the 4 children. And we start off, Baruch HaMakom Baruch Hu, Baruch Shenatan Torah Le'amo Yisrael Baruch Hu, Keneged Arba Avanim, Dibra Torah Echad, Chacham, V'yachad Rasha, V'yachad Tam, V'yachad She'eno Yodei Alishol. So what are these 4 children? The first is wise, the second is wicked, the second is simple, the third is simple, and the fourth is one who cannot even ask a question. And if you turn the page, we can go down and see the next ones.
That would be Cantor Emmanuel.
Cantor Emmanuel is going to tell the story here about what each one is, but the first one is the wise son. The wise son, as you're going to find out, is the one who asked the question, why are we interested in this Seder? Why are we doing this? And they want to know the answer. They want to know why we're doing it and what is this answer? I want to know why. And they're curious. The wicked son will ask exactly the same question, but instead of saying, why do we do this? We'll say, why do you do this? And doesn't care what the answer is. They don't even want to know. You're being ridiculed. The third son that Cantor Emmanuel will talk about is the one that's the simple son. The simple son asks a question, but maybe it has a hard time understanding the answer. So we have to make sure to answer it in a way they can understand it. And the one that doesn't even know how to ask, they don't even know what the question is. They don't understand how to ask the question because they don't know what you're talking about. Now let's go back. Who are these people? If I asked you which one are you, the answer is you're all 4, as am I. We all are. There are times we ask questions and we want to know the answer. Then there's times we just don't know why are they doing this? It's a waste of time and we don't want to know the answer. And even though we should, it's never good to ridicule. It's always good to be the wise son. Then there's the times we ask a question and we're not even sure we understand the answer. And the final one is like me. If somebody, you could stand on your head and try to explain the theory of relativity to me, and I wouldn't know what the follow-on question is because I don't understand what you're talking about. And there are subjects like that every one of us has that problem with. So there are not really 4 children. There are four aspects to each of us, and each of us are those four children. And now, I guess Cantor Manny will ask the questions.
I would just want to say an addendum that so much of who we are is based upon how we ask a question. And that's really the relevance here. One asks to hear an answer. One asks and does not want an answer. One asks but does not understand. And one does not ask because he doesn't understand that he doesn't even understand. And I always wondered when I was in yeshiva, why do we have the word echad before every one of them? Why can't we just say it once? And again, it's that concept with God's oneness, that each of us is unique. And we always hold hope out for a better question. And we have to be ready, though, to give that better answer. I'm sure when we hear from Dr. Wilson later and others who have studied really in depth, that even when we sang the Kiddush earlier, Asher Bachar Banu, to be chosen as a chosen people, it's not really what you think it is. It's a responsibility, not a privilege. And so it's ironic that the wise son that I'll be chanting now actually is first mentioned 40 years later. We learn about it in Devarim, and the other three sons appear in Shemot. So it wasn't the wise son. We have to have years and years of experience. And as Rabbi Eli said, each of us is one of those. We hope that in the final analysis that we will have acquired enough knowledge, enough experience, empirical data, that we can finally say, Chacham mahu omer, ma'edod ha'chukim va'mishpatim asher tziva Adonai Eloheinu etchem. ואף אתה אמר כהלכות הפסח, אין מפטירין אחר הפסח, Afikomen. What is the meaning of the laws and tradition God has commanded? You should teach him all the traditions of Passover, even to the last detail. Roshon is for Josh. Can't be Josh.
Rosham mahu omer. מה העבודה הזאת לכם, לכם ולא לו, וכפי שהוציא את עצמו מן הכלל, הפר בעיקר, ואף פתח את שיניו, ואמר לו בעבור זה, עשה אדוני לי בצאתי ממצרים, לי ולא לו, אילו היה שם, לא היה ניגל.
תם מה אומר, מה זאת, אמרת אליו, בחוזק יד הוציאנו אדוני ממצרים, מבית עבדים. The simple one asks, what is all this? You should tell him, it was with a mighty hand that the Lord took us out of Egypt, out of the house of bondage.
When I visit senior facilities and I go to the memory wards, people ask me, why do you bother? They won't remember you even there. Every time I'm asked that question, unfortunately it's a lot, I answer with this. ושאינו יודע לשאול, את פתח לו שנאמר, והגדת לבנך ביום ההוא לאמור, בעבור עשה אדוני לי בצאתי ממצרים.
As for the one who does not know how to ask, you should open the discussion for him, as it is written, and you shall explain to your child on that day. It is because of what the Lord did for me when I came out of Egypt.
Wise person is not the one that knows the answer. It's the one that knows the right question. That is the most difficult thing. What is the right question at the right time?
Why are you wearing that mask?
And the right source. And the right source.
That is the wrong question.
Yachol merosh chodesh Tamud lomar b'yom hahu. Im b'yom hahu yachol mivo yom. Talmud lomar bi'avur zeh lo amarti. Ele b'shah sheish matzah maror munachim lefanecha. One might think that the Haggadah should be recited on the first day of the month of Nisan, but the Torah says, you shall tell your son on that day, the first day of Passover. One might think that the phrase on that day means that the story of the Exodus should be recited in the daytime. Therefore, the Torah says, this is on account of what the Lord did for me. The word this refers to the time when the matzah and this maror are placed before you on Passover night, when you are obligated to eat them along with everyone, men, women, children, all people together. In the beginning,
I always read it on the first day of Toyota.
As we continue.
מלכיל עובדי עבודה זרה היו אבותינו ועכשיו קרבנו מקום לעבודתו שנאמר ויאמר יהושע אל כל העם כה אמר אדוני אלוהי ישראל בעבר הנהר ישבו אבותיכם מעולם תרח אבי אברהם ואבי נחור ויעבדו אלוהים אחרים ויקח את אביכם, את אברהם מעבר הנהר, והולך אותו בכל ארץ כנען, בהרבה צרו, ותן לו את יצחק, ותן ליצחק את יעקב את עשיו, ותן לעשיו את הר שעיר, לרשת אותו ויעקב ובניו, ירדו מצרים. ברוך שומר הבטחו לישראל ברוך הוא, שהקדוש ברוך הוא חישב את הקץ לעשות כמה שאמר לאברהם אבינו בברית בין הבתרים שנאמר. ויאמר לאברהם ידוע תדע כי גר יהיה זרעך בארץ לא להם, ועבדום ועינו אותם 400 שנה, וגם את הגוי אשר יעבודו דן אנוכי, אחרי כן יצאו ברכוש גדול. Blessed be he who keeps his promise to Israel. Blessed be he, the Holy One. Blessed be he. Predetermined the time for our final deliverance in order to fulfill what he had pledged to our father Abraham in a covenant, as it is written. He said to Avram, your descendants will surely sojourn in a land that is not their own, and they will be enslaved and afflicted for 400 years. However, I will punish the nation that enslaved them, and afterwards they shall leave with great wealth.
As we lift our cups.
וכי שעמדה לאבותינו ולנו, ראי שעמדה לאבותינו ולנו, שלא אחד בלבד, אמר עלינו לכלותנו, אלא שבכל דור ודור עומדים עלינו לכלותנו, והקדוש ברוך הוא מצילנו מידם.
This covenant that remained constant for our ancestors and for us, saved us against any who arose to destroy us in every generation and throughout history, when any stood against us to annihilate us. The Kadosh Baruch Hu kept saving us from them. We continue now. You may put your cups back down and uncover your matzah.
By the way, each time we pick up our cup of wine, we cover the matzah. And then when we put it back down, we uncover the matzah. And that's so we don't embarrass the matzah. And I know people laugh when I say that, because how can you embarrass a matzah? The point is you cannot embarrass a matzah. What we're trying to teach everyone is that if you go out of your way not to embarrass a matzah, how much more so would you go out of the way not to embarrass another person? And now we come to some of the introduction of what the story is. The Magid, which is where we are, is the story, is what we're telling, the telling of the story of the Haggadah, of the Exodus of Egypt. But we don't just start off with a story, we set it up. We give us some background, where we go and learn that Lavan, the Aramean, intended to kill our ancestor Jacob, and also, by the way, his family, which is really much worse than what Pharaoh had planned to do. Pharaoh had planned just to kill the male children, and Lavan wanted to kill all of the family so that we could no longer become people. Our people would be over. And so the Torah tells the story. Amar Oved Avi, Vayered Mimitzrayim, Vayagar Sham B'mitei Ma'at, Vayehi Sham Lagoy Gadol Atzum V'Rav. This is in the Torah, and it says, "Go and learn. A wandering Aramean was my father, who went down to Egypt and sojourned there, a few in number, and there we multiplied, becoming a great people, strong and numerous. But the Egyptians deal ills with us and afflicted us, setting us to hard labor. Finally, when we cried out to Adonai, the God of our ancestors, Adonai heard our voice, saw our affliction, saw our toil and our oppression. Then Adonai brought us out of Egypt with a strong hand and an outstretched arm, with great awe, marvelous signs and wonders." He sojourned there implies that he did not come down to settle in Egypt, but only to live there temporarily, as it is written. They, the sons of Jacob, said to Pharaoh, "We have come to sojourn in this land because there is no pasture for your servants, flocks, for the famine is severe in the land of Canaan. For now, let your servants dwell in the land of Goshen." Yo.
Now that was an accident that was put into that Haggadah many years ago. It could be but we didn't take it out because every time it's being read, everybody goes, yo. So let's hear everybody. Ready?
Yo.
And now we'll skip. As we continue, as numerous as it was written. You have to unmute there, Rabbi Eli. You sound great.
Yeah, that's the best. As numerous as it is written, I made you as populous as the plants in the field. You grew up and wore choice adornments. Your breasts were firm and your hair grew long. Yet you were bare and naked. The Egyptians suspected us of evil and afflicted us. They imposed hard labor upon us.
V'yareyu otanu hamitzrayim v'yanunu v'yitnu aleinu avodah kasha. The Egyptians treated us badly. They persecuted us and imposed hard labor on us. And they afflicted us, as it is written, they set taskmasters over them in order to oppress them with their burdens. The people of Israel built Pitom and Ramses and stored cities for Paro. V'yananu kamashanar v'hayasimu alav sarei misim leman anoto b'seblotam Vayivena harei misukonod lefaro et pitom v'yed Ramses. Vayitnu aleinu avodah kasha kama shenemar v'yavidu Mitzrayim et bnei Yisrael b'farech.
Vanitzak el Adonai Elohei Avoteinu, Vayishma Adonai et koleinu, Vayar et onyenu, V'yet amaleinu, V'yet lachatzeinu. We cried to the Lord, the God of our fathers. The Lord heard our cry and saw our affliction, our toil and our oppression. Vanitzak el Adonai Elohei Avoteinu kema shenemar vayehi vayamim harabim haim vayamot melech Mitzrayim vayadnchu bnei Yisrael min avodah v'yizaku ata al shavatam el Elohim min avodah.
וישמע אדוני את קולנו כמה שנאמר. וישמע אלוהים את נאקתם ויזכור אלוהים את בריתו, את אברהם, את יצחק ואת יעקב. The Lord heard our cry, as it is written, God heard their groaning, God remembered his covenant with Abraham, with Isaac, and with Jacob. וירא עניינו, זו פרישות דרך ארץ, כמה שנאמר, וירא אלוהים את בני ישראל, וידע אלוהים. And saw affliction, that is, the nuptial separation of husband and wife, as it is written, God saw the children of Israel, and God knew.
ותמלאנו אלו הבנים כמו שנאמר על הבן הילוד היורה תשליכו לכל הבת תחיון ולחצרנו זה הדחק כמו שנאמר, וגם ראיתי את הלחץ אשר מצרים לוחצים אותם.
The Lord God brought us out of Egypt, out of Mitzrayim, with a mighty hand and an outstretched arm, with great awe, miraculous signs and wonders. Yotzienu Adonai miMitzrayim lo al yedei malach, v'lo al yedei saraf, v'lo al yedei shaliach. The Lord brought us out of Egypt, not by an angel, not by the cherub, not by a messenger, but by the Holy One, blessed be he himself. As it is written, I will pass through the land of Egypt. On that night, I will smite all the firstborn in the land of Egypt, from man into beast. On all the gods of Egypt, I will execute judgments. I am the Lord.
ועברתם ארץ מצרים בלילה הזה אני ולא מלאך, והכיתי כל בכל בארץ מצרים אני ולא שרף, ובכל אלוהי מצרים אסר שפטי. אני ולא השליח, אני אדוני, אני הוא ולא אחר. I will pass through the land of Egypt on that night, myself and not an angel. I will smite all the firstborn in the land of Egypt, myself and not a cherub. On all the gods of Egypt, I will execute judgments, myself and not a messenger. For I am the Lord, I and none other.
ביד חזקה זו הדבר, כמה שנאמר, הנה יד אדוני הויה, במקנך אשר בשדה, בסוסים, בחמורים, בגמלים, בבקר ובצאן, דבר כבד מאוד. Mighty hand refers to the disease among the cattle. As it is written, behold, the hand of the Lord strikes your cattle with which are in the field, the horses, the donkeys, the camels, the herds, and the flocks, a very severe pestilence. ובזרוע נטויה, זו החרב כמה שנאמר, וחרבו שלופה בידו, נטויה על ירושלים. Outstretched arm means the sword as it is written, his drawn sword in his hand, outstretched over Jerusalem. You're muted, Eli.
There you go. Uv Morah Gadol. I thought maybe your ears were bad again.
What?
Zegiloi Shekhinah Kamash and Amar. Why don't you skip down to the English? Great awe alludes to the divine revelation as it is written, has God ever attempted to take unto himself a nation from midst of another nation by trials, miraculous signs and wonders, by war and with a mighty hand and outstretched arm and by awesome revelations, just as you saw the Lord your God do for you in Mitzrayim before your eyes.
אשר תעשה בו את האותות מופתים זה הדם, כמו שנאמר, ונתתי מופתים בשמיים ובארץ.
אלו 10 מכות שהביא קדוש ברוך הוא על מצרים במצרים, ואלו הם. These are the plagues that the Holy One, blessed be He, brought upon Egypt.
Dam va'esh v'timrot ashan, blood and fire and pillars of smoke.
Now, at this time, we are going to be dropping or dripping some wine from our cup of joy. Rabbi Eli, why don't you explain that? I know there was just one way of counting the plagues, but Rabbi Eli, why don't you pick it up at this point?
Yeah,
and
this
explain
one
why
is-
we do this.
This one is the complete list of the different plagues that we have. And with each one, we take a drop of wine out of our cup, because we don't want to drink from a full cup of joy, because while we are glad that we are free, we aren't so glad that the Egyptians had to go through all this.
There you go. That's much better.
I don't even know how that turned off. Anyway, I didn't turn it off. So the point is we have the 10 plagues, and we're saddened that God had to hurt his own children in such a way, even taking the firstborn. So we do not drink from a full cup of joy. We take a drop out of each one, as we say. Dam Sephardeya Kinim Arov Dever Shechin Barad Arbe Choshech Makat Becharot. And of course, we have an 11th one this year: blood, frogs, lice, beasts, cattle plague, boils, hail, locust, darkness, slaying of the firstborn, and of course the 11th plague. And we should probably take more than one finger of blood of wine out of the cup, and COVID-19.
Of course, as you see the child there with fingers in the mouth, our father, Halav Shalom, always taught us, don't waste the wine on your finger. Go ahead, lick it off, it's fine.
As I did, to honor our father. So Rabbi Yehuda Hayanotan Bahem Simanim. Rabbi Yehuda would assign the plagues in 3 mnemonic signs. And then I'm going to, again, take out 3 more drops.
And there we go. Now, the Haggadah goes out of its way not to mention Moses. As you heard earlier, God said, no. I'm the one. I'm the one that took you out. I'm the one that made sure that, unfortunately, the firstborn were smoked and et cetera, et cetera. I. There's no mention of Moses until we get to this part of the Haggadah, which has nothing to do with the traditional Haggadah. This is only added by me. I alone have added this. This is blasphemy. This should not be in the Haggadah, but it's fun. And so we've added it. And so you're all welcome to sing along in your homes. Please do so, because it's a joy to get ready as we're about to enter into the next phase of our Seder, which is some glory and hallelujah. But first, when Israel was in Egypt land,
Let my people go.
oppressed so hard they could not stand.
Let my people go.
Go down, Moses, way down in Egypt land. Tell old Pharaoh,
Let my people go.
Thus saith the Lord, bold Moses said, he said,
let my people go.
if not, I'll strike your firstborn dead.
Let my people go.
Go down, Moses, way down in Egypt land. Tell old Pharaoh,
let my people go.
the Lord told Moses what to do. He said,
let my people go.
to lead the children of Israel through.
Let my people go.
Go down, Moses, way down in Egypt land. Tell old Pharaoh.
Let my people go.
Last verse. When they had reached the other shore,
let my people go.
they sang a song of triumph for.
Let my people go.
Go down, Moses, way down in Egypt land. Tell old
Let my people go.
As we now continue.
I was very proud of my brother Josh for remembering those words.
So glad I'm a tenor. Rabbi Yosei Hagalili Omer, Minayin ata omer, Shelaku Hamitzrim b'Mitzrayim 10 makot, Val hayam laku 50 makot, b'Mitzrayim ma omer, Vayomeru achartumim el Paro, Etzba Elohim ehi, V'al hayam ma omer, Vayar Yisrael al hayar hagdola she'asa Adonai b'Mitzrayim. Vayiroham et Adonai vayemiru Adonai Moshe avdo. Kamalako b'etzba 10 makot. Emor me'ata b'Mitzrayim lako 10 makot. V'al hayam lako 50 makot.
Rabbi Elazar omer minyan shekol maka umaka shehevi HaKadosh Baruch Hu al Mitzrim b'Mitzrayim hayta shel 4 makot shene'emar yishlach bam charon apo evra v'za'am v'tzara mishlachat malachei ra'im Evra achat, v'za'am shetayim, v'tzara shlosh, mishlachat, malachei ra'im arba. Emor me'ata b'Mitzrayim, laku 40 makot, v'yal hayam laku 200 makot.
Go right to the English. You notice these are all different ways of thinking about the plagues, but none of this has anything to do with the story. This all has to do with how do we set up for the story, and we go through and we go, if this happened, if that happened, if one thing happened after another, and it's just a wonderful thing. So Rabbi Akiva says, how does one derive that every plague that God inflicted upon the Egyptians in Egypt was equal in intensity to 5 plagues? It is written. He sent them his fierce anger, wrath, fury, and trouble, a band of evil messengers. Since each plague was compromised of fierce anger, wrath, fury, trouble, and a band of evil messengers, they must have suffered 50 plagues in Egypt and 250 at the sea. And now comes the good one.
Our favorite.
It would have been enough if that's all we got, if God did all these wonderful things for us, and we argue about it and we say what that and all this, it would have been enough. So there we sing. Ilu hotzi anu mi mitzrayim velo asa velo dayenu dayenu dayenu.
Ilo natan lanu et Shabbat dayenu dayenu dayenu.
Ilu natan lanu et Torah natan lanu et Torah dayenu dayenu dayenu. We didn't leave one for the fourth son.
Natan lanu et all of my brothers and their families and our congregations. Dayenu, 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 dayenu.
Can always come up with one, Cantor Josh. You're amazing. Rabban Gamliel hayamar kol shelo amar shelo shah devarim elu pesach lo yatsa yadecha b'tov v'elu heim pesach matzah umaror. Rabban Gamliel would teach that all those who had not spoken the three words on Passover had not fulfilled their obligation to tell the story. And these three words are Pesach, Matzah, and Maror. Zehakol. Pesach shayu avotenu, ochlim bizman shebeit hamikdash hayam kayam, al shumma. Al shum shepas hakadosh baruch hu al b'tei avotenu b'mitzrayim shenemar v'amartem zevach pesach hu l'Adonai asher pesach al beiti b'nei Yisrael b'mitzrayim v'nahagefu et mitzrayim v'yebetenu hitzil v'hikod ha'am v'ishtachavu.
As a sheep, I really hate this part of the Haggadah. I hate it.
Don't be sheepish about it. Muted.
His camera's off. It's muted. Rabbi, you're muted.
I know I'm muted. What do you want to hear me for?
Talk about the
matzah. What does it symbolize in the Seder? There was insufficient time for the dough of the ancestors to rise when the Holy One, blessed He, was revealed to us and redeemed us, as it is written in the Torah, and they baked the dough with which they brought forth out of Egypt into matzah, cakes of unleavened bread, which had not risen. For having been driven out of Egypt, they could not tarry, and they had made no provisions for themselves.
I found another mistake. Sorry.
There was one before that too.
Yo.
Maror ze shanochlim al shum shemeru amitzrim et chayavoten b'mitzrayim shenemar vayimararu et chayem avoda kasha b'chol omer uvilveinim ובכל עבודה בשדה, את כל עבודתם אשר עבדו בהם בפרך.
We'll continue now. Bechol dor vador, every generation.
בכל דור ודור חייב אדם לראות את עצמו, כאילו הוא יצא ממצרים שנאמר, והגעת לבנך ביום ההוא לאמור, בעבור זה עשה אדוני לי, וצאתי ממצרים לא את אבותינו בלבד, גל הקדוש ברוך הוא, אלא אף אותנו גאל עמהם, שנאמר, ואותנו הוציא משם, למען הביא אותנו, את לנו את הארץ אשר נשבע לאבותינו.
And we praise God at this time. We normally will cover our matzah again, and we will lift our cups. Some of us won't. It's up to you, but we continue now with some Hallel.
לפיכך אנחנו חייבים להודות להלל לשבח לבועל לרומם להדר לברך להלל ולקלס למי שעשה לאבותינו ולנו את כל הנושאים האלו. הוציאה לנו מעבדות לחירות מעגון לשמחה מאבל ליום טוב ומאפלה לאור גדול ומשיבו לגאולה. ונאמר לפניו שירה חדשה, ונאמר לפניו שירה חדשה, ונאמר לפניו שירה חדשה, ונאמר לפניו שירה חדשה. הללויה, 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 הללויה. Hallelujah, 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 Avdei Adonai. Hallelujah, 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 et Shem Adonai. Yehi Shem Adonai mevarach, me'ata ve'ad olam. Mimizro shemesh anemo, molal Shem Adonai. Ramal kol goyim Adonai, al hashamayim kvodo. Mikadonai Eloheinu, hamavil hashavet, hamavil lirot, hashamayim ovaretz, mikimei me'afareda. Me'ashvod yarim emione, lo'shivim nivei, im nivei amo, mo'shivei akeren abayit, em amanim semecha, hallelujah.
Beit Yisrael mi Mitzrayim, Beit Yaakov meyam loes. Hayta Yehuda lekodsho, Yisrael mamshelotav. Hayam ra'av vayanos, Hayarden yisov leachor, Heharim rafkedu chelim. Gelaot kivnei tzon, Malecha hayam bam 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 bam, Kitanus bam 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 bam, Hayarden tisov leachor bam 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 bam, Heharim bam 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 bam. Kirkedu chelim baram bam bam bam, Gevot kibnei tzon bam 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 bam, Milifnei Adon bam 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 bam, Chuli aretz bam 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 bam, Milifnei Eloha Yaakov bam 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 bam. Ha'hofri hatzur bam 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 bam, Hagamayim bam 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 bam, Chalamish Lemaino mayim bam 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 bam.
All right, we can put our cups down, and it's the second night, so we will be starting to count the omer between now and the next festival, the festival of weeks, Shavuot. So Chazan Emmanuel, take it away.
הנני מקיים מצוות עשה של ספירת האומר, כמו שכתוב בתורה, ספרתם לכם ממחרת השבת מיום אביכם את עומר התנופה, 7 שבתות תמימות תהיינה, ממחרת השבת השביעית תספרו 50 יום. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, אשר קידשנו במצוותיו וציוונו על ספירת העומר. היום יום אחד לעומר.
Praise thou you, Lord our God, King of the universe, who has sanctified us through his commandments and commanded us to count the omer. Today is day 1 of the omer, and we'll remember to count it every single night. Second cup.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher galanu v'gal et avotenu Mitzrayim v'ga'anu lalayla hazeh le'echol bo matzah umaror kein Adonai Eloheinu v'Elokei avotenu yigaenu lamodeim v'lirgalayim acherim habayim likratenu leShalom semechim b'binyan nirecha V'sasim b'avodatecha v'nochal shamin hazvachim umin hapsachim asher yigad amam al kir mizbacha l'ratzon v'nodelecha shir chadash al geulatenu v'al pidut nafshenu Baruch atah Adonai Shal Yisrael. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen.
And we drink this second cup now, leaning to the left. Normally we finish each cup, by the way, but it's up to you. We are now going to wash the hands while I wash. Rabbi Eli, why don't you explain?
Okay, let me explain. The rachza, we wash the hands for 20 seconds because of COVID. No, it is a ritual washing. We did it at the beginning of the service and we didn't make a bracha. We just washed our hands. But before we eat bread, we always wash our hands and make a bracha. And after the bracha, we're allowed to make the motzi. And the motzi, and we have 2 prayers we're going to make, not just the motzi. And after the second prayer, we will eat the matzah. However, when we wash our hands, we're not allowed to talk until after we eat the matzah. So this is my family's favorite part, where I wash my hands and they refuse to take the matzah for a little while, so I can't say anything. Anyway, let us say the blessing together for washing the hands. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu al netilat yodayim.
I'm not supposed to speak, but you're muted.
Baruch atah Adonai lemelech haolam hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Baruch atah Adonai lemelech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu al achilat matzah.
And we take the matzah and we eat it. I have to go get that T-shirt that says you're muted. Chazan Emmanuel, would you
We
explain
do the whole
Torah?
service on Shabbos that way. I stay muted the whole service.
I'm glad you
My
did.
congregation loves me for that.
There you go.
When we think of the maror, we immediately think of something bitter, but actually it's to keep us in sync with life. And we have our ups and our downs, just as Rabbi Eli mentioned, that we're all partially the 4 sons. We all have these moments in our life when we are on top of the world, and then there are times when we feel the world is on top of us. And so we try to remember bitterness so that we can really truly appreciate. Certainly post-COVID, there is so much to appreciate, to see some people sitting around the table, if that's possible for you. It was possible for us, and I'm eternally grateful for that. And so we begin to understand that sometimes we, as a people, we think that what keeps us together is the plenty that we have, but sometimes it comes from being enslaved, and that we begin to appreciate things. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu v'tzivanu al achilat maror.
Oh, those were bitter times. Whoa. Ah. Oh, man. Forget it. Ah.
Eli, could you mute yourself?
I can always tell when I'm muted or not during my Devar Torahs, because when they stay awake, it's because I'm muted. When I'm not muted, they all go to sleep.
Cantor Josh, tell us why we should make a sandwich.
Zecher lemikdash kehilel, kein asa Hillel bizman shebeit hamikdash haya kayam, haya korech pesach matzah maror, ve'ochel biyachad, v'kayem ma shenemar al matzot u'mirorim ye'ochlu.
So now we take the matzah, you make a sandwich and you eat it. Some people put horseradish into it to give it the bitter sweetness. Some put whatever in. But this should be your first sandwich of the night. And I apologize. I know we went a little longer than an hour, a little bit. But
The reason we went over is because the cantors blame the rabbis and the rabbis blame the cantors.
No, I'll take responsibility. Last year, I couldn't really participate. So you had really an extra person. So, but please, Rabbi Eli, unmute yourself.
Yes, what can I do for you?
Mute yourself again.
we're going to go sit and relax with our folks. We're going to have a toast to them as well. And we're going to sit back and schmooze a little bit. And that's what you should do at this point. You should all schmooze a little bit. Think about times where you spent with the family. Think about times where you gathered together. We're literally going to take a break now for 45 minutes to give you time to eat. When we come back, we'll say hi to Marv Wilson, who's with us tonight, Professor Marv Wilson. I want to give you some time to speak to us. So let's not do it before we eat, because especially the rabbis and cantors went over and we want them to enjoy you. So we're going to give you a 45-minute window, ladies and gentlemen, to sit back, relax, and have a meal together and enjoy each other's company. Well, I hope that was a good 45-minute dinner for everybody and everybody enjoyed their meal. Welcome back, everybody. Welcome back to our second half of the Seder. And before we begin, I just want to show Rabbi Eli, if I happen to stand up and open my Kittle, it's because you're on mute. This way we don't have to interrupt the service anymore. So in the rest of the service, Rabbi Shark.
Well, I was sitting there by the Sea of Reeds, and I got hungry, and the Rabbi Eli was there, and I just decided that I was hungry, and now he's inside of me. So the great Leviathan came out of the water and ate him. Ah!
Thank God for that. Without further ado, I would like to take a moment and introduce a very dear friend of ours here at Temple Ner Tamid in Peabody. Professor Marvin Wilson spoke at our congregation a couple of years ago already. I mean, with the COVID situation, I kind of lost a year, I think, but he spoke with us and was just an amazing friend of our congregation. He had been bringing his classes. He was a professor, a scholar at the Gordon College in Wenham, and would bring his classes to us until he retired in 2018. He and his wife, Polly, would come, and I think he speaks and reads Hebrew better than many of us. Professor Wilson, I know you're going to be taking part in some of the rest of the service with us tonight, but if you would unmute your mic, we'd love to hear from you of maybe a few words as we welcome you tonight to our Seder.
Well, Hag Sameach to everybody. It's certainly a personal delight to be able to say a few words of greeting. Thank you, Rabbi Rick, for reaching out to me, and good to see you, Manny and Eli and Josh. We had a wonderful weekend together. Tonight I've enjoyed the Haggadah readings and all, but I've also enjoyed the banter back and forth between you brothers. That's the way brothers should be. And that can make a very long night. As they say, a spoonful of sugar helps the medicine go down. And this is good stuff, good medicine. And if I have a Davar Torah that I can briefly share with you on one foot, it is simply that. We live in a day in which the particular, unfortunately, is being overshadowed by the universal. There are many, many stories out there today, and all legitimate, of various people groups who are oppressed, are enslaved, have come to a new sense of nationalism, freedom, and self-determination. And we can all appreciate their stories. They have their rightful place. But I'm here tonight as the one wearing the cap of the Goyim to look from the outside in on your scriptures. And being instructed by Jewish scholarship all my life, I've come to deeply appreciate the fact that your calling as a people is a unique calling. You are, as a people, sui generis. You are unique, a type to yourself. Not better, because chosenness does not mean to be elite or superior, but it is a calling. And God gave you as a people a calling to bring the Torah and the message of ethical monotheism to the world. And no matter how many other stories are out there, remember Israel's story cannot be lost. It is not simply one story among other stories. It has a unique ring to it. What does it mean to be a Segulah people? Now, that's a difficult word to translate, but in less than 50 days after Israel came through the Yam Suf, the Red Sea, Hashem said, I bore you on eagle's wings, and you are a treasured possession, a holy people. You are a chosen people with a specific mission to the world. That mission cannot be hijacked. It cannot be duplicated. It cannot be exactly replicated by anyone else. It is a special calling that sets the Jewish people apart. I am one of the wild olive branches that comes in through the outpatient department to share my love for you and your people and your scriptures that have changed my life. And so I bear witness to that tonight. But my last word in this brief word of Torah pertaining to Seders, the Jewish Seder is a reminder of a redeeming God. In the Amidah or the Shemona Esrei, in the 7th section, it has everything to do with Geulah, redemption. God the Redeemer, God the Liberator, which daily, as well as every Sabbath, because in 6 days the heaven and earth were created, but in the 7th, you are to remember God the Redeemer, not just God the Creator. There are 2 accounts of the 10 Commandments. So weekly, the theme of redemption comes before us, as that is repeated in the daily prayer, the Shemona Esrei, as well as in the 10 Commandments. Now, today there are many people who are in bondage, oppressed, afflicted, addicted, bound. If there's one message that we particularly shared together tonight, in addition to being co-partners awaiting redemption, the ultimate redemption to come, it is that we have a mission to be agents and instruments of redemption in this world today, Jews and Christians doing that redemptive work. If we allow this Seder to simply be recalling an event from 3,200 years ago, and it gets lost in the smog of antiquity, and we only are talking about ancient history, we must move this into the modern world. And our calling in this world today is to help set people free, to release them and to deliver them, some psychologically, some emotionally, some physically, many spiritually, so that they can be all that they can be by Hashem's grace. And so tonight, that is a word of thanksgiving for you, for the message you have brought to the world, but that message lives on. And as we end the Seder tonight, it's a reminder that yet in Jerusalem, we like to gather in the future because it is a reminder of hope, of a greater day coming, of a renewed heaven and earth, of a renewed society where tikkun olam, the mending, fixing, repairing of the world is achieved, and the perfection of everything we have talked about tonight. We are free, but yet we are not yet fully free. And so we long for that great day of liberation together. And to that, we say L'chaim and V'yamaru, Amen.
Amen, amen, amen. Professor, Zahayom Asad Adonai Lagila B'nismecha Bo. Today is the day that the Lord has brought, and we shall rejoice with him and in his name. God brought us all together, sadly through a pandemic, but because of the sadness of the pandemic, I'm able to share our homes with you and your wife, Polly. Our brothers are all together tonight. Normally, we cannot do this because we serve congregations. And so in the bad, the good was the ability for us tonight to be together and to hear you speak, because you do speak words of God. You do speak words of shalom, of brotherhood, of peace. And so we are better off tonight, having heard you and sharing now with you in our second half of the Seder. And with that, Rabbi Eli, I hope you have your Afikomen, because if you don't, we don't finish the Seder.
I do have it. I hid it myself and almost couldn't remember where I put it, but I stood up and I realized where I put it, and therefore I have to sing.
Well, don't sit on it first.
I
What
already
we'll
did.
do, we're gonna
Wait.
start, we're gonna sing a song of whatever. My dad at every Seder breaks a matzah piece in two and hides the Afikomen half a game for me and you. Find it, hold it, ransom, for the Seder isn't through till the Afikomen's gone. This is in Greek. Don't sit on the Afikomen. Don't sit on the Afikomen. Don't sit on the Afikomen, or the meal will last all night. Rabbi Eli.
1 year, Daddy hid it neath the pillow on the chair. But just as I raced over, my Aunt Sophie sat down there. She threw herself upon it. Awful crunching filled the air, and crumbs flew all around. Don't sit on the Afikomen. Don't sit on the Afikomen. Don't sit on the Afikomen, or the meal will last all night.
There were matzah crumbs all over. Oh, it was a messy sight. We swept up all the pieces, though it took us half the night. So, if you want your Seder ending sooner than dawn's delight, don't sit on the Afikomen. Don't sit on the Afikomen. Don't sit on the Afikomen. Don't sit on the Afikomen, or the meal will last all night. It's time to eat your Afikomen, folks. Little piece here, little piece there. Pass it around. We're going to fill our next cup. We're going to fill our cup. That would be the third one if I'm not correct, or if I'm not mistaken. I know I'm correct. And so we get the Manischewitz. And again, some people, believe it or not, during grace after meals, some actually hold their Kiddush cup, some don't. So whatever your custom would be, that will be fine. As Chazan Emmanuel begin the Birchat Hamazon.
Shir amalo b'shom Adonai et shivat Zion ayinu kechomim az yimale schar pino ol shoneinu reinat az yomru v'goyim Higdil Adonai lasotim ele, Higdil Adonai lasotim anu, Hayinu semechim, Shuv Adonai et shiviteinu, Kafikim ba'negev, Hazorim bedima, bedina yikzoru, Halach yelecho v'acha, no same Meshech Hazara, Vayam Voyav Omerina, no say Alomotav. That's
Rabotai.
Josh, unmute, Josh.
Aha. Oh, wait a minute. Hold on.
No wonder why I didn't get a response.
Azen.
Taverai nevarech,
Yehi Shem Adonai mevorach me'atav yad olam.
Yehi Shem Adonai mevarach me'atav yad olam. ברשות חבריי נברך אלוהינו שלחנו משלום.
Baruch Eloheinu Shulchan Mishalov Tuvo Chayinu.
ברוך אלוהינו שלחנו משלום ובטובו היינו. ברוך וברוך שמו.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam mazal et haolam kulo b'tuvo v'chein b'chesed u'brachamim u'noten lechem l'chol basar ki le'olam chasto u'b'tuvo hagadol tamid lo chasar lanu v'yaksar lanu mazon le'olam va'ed Bavur Shemo Hagadol, Hiwazanim Vanes Lakol, Umetiv Lakol, Umechim Mazon Lechol Beriotav Asher Bara, Baruch Atah Adonai, Azan et HaKol.
תודה לך, אדוני אלוהינו, על שהנחלת לאבותינו ערך חמדת והרחבה. ועל שהוצאתנו, אדוני אלוהינו, מארץ מצרים, ובידרתנו מבית עבדים, ועל בריתך שחתמת בבשרנו. על תורתך שלימדתנו, ועל חוקיך שהורתנו, ועל חיים חן בחסד שחוננתנו, ועל אכילת מזון שאתה זן. והוא מפרנס אותנו תמיד בכל יום ובכל עת ובכל שעה.
ועל הכל, אדוני אלוהינו, אנחנו מודים לך ומברכים אותך. יתברך שמך בפי כל חי תמיד לעולם ועד. כך כתוב ויכלת ושבעת וברכת את אדוני אלוהיך על הארץ הטובה אשר נתן לך. ברוך אתה אדוני על הארץ ועל המזון.
רחם נא אדוני אלוהינו על שישראל עמך ועל ירושלים עירך ועל ציון משכן כבודך ועל מלכות בית דוד משיחך ועל הבית הגדול והקדוש שנקרא שמך עליו. אלוהינו אבינו ראינו זוננו פרנסנו וכלכלנו והרוויחנו והרווח לנו אדוני אלוהינו מהרה מכל צורותינו. ונעל תצריכנו אדוני אלוהינו לא לידי מתנת בשר ודם לא לידי הלוותם כי אם לידך המלאה הבטוחה הקדושה והרחבה שלא נבוש ולא נקלם לעולם ועד.
אלוהינו ולאבותינו יעלה ויבוא ויגיע wherever יצא וישמע ויבקר ויזכר זיכרוננו וגדולנו וזיכרון אבותינו וזיכרון משיח בן דוד עבדך וזיכרון ירושלים עיר קודשך וזיכרון כל עמך בית ישראל לבניך לפלט לטוב ולחינוך רחמים לחיים ולשלום ביום חג המצות הזה. זכרנו אדוני אלוהינו בו לטובה, אמן. ופקדנו בו לברכה, אמן. והושיענו בו לחיים, אמן. ובדבר ישועה ורחמים חוץ לפנינו ורחם עלינו והושיענו כי אליך עינינו כי המלך חנון ורחום אתה.
ובני ירושלים עיר הקודש במהרה בימינו ברוך אתה אדוני בונה ורחמה בירושלים אמן. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם האל אבינו מלכנו אדירנו בוראנו גואלנו יוצרנו קדושנו Kiddush Yaakov, Roeinu, Roe Yisrael, HaMelech HaTov Meitiv L'Kol, Shebechol Yom Vayom, Hu Heitiv Umeitiv, Hu Yeitiv Elanu, Hu Gimelanu, Hu Gomelenu, Hu Yigmelenu La'ad Lecheinu Leches Rachamim, Hu L'Revach Hatzala V'Atzlacha, V'Racha V'Shoah Nechama Parasa V'Chalkala, V'Rachamim V'Chaim, V'Shalom V'Chol Tov, U'Mekotom Le'olam Ha'Yechasreinu.
Arachaman, hu yimloch aleinu leolam va'ed.
Amen.
Amen.
Arachaman, hu yitbarach b'shamayim u'ba'aretz.
Amen.
Arachaman, hu yishtabach l'dor dorim, v'yipar banu la'ad u'lenetzach netzachim, v'yithadar banu la'ad u'lemei olamim.
Amen.
Arachaman, yifarnesenu b'chavod.
Amen.
Harachaman, hu yispor aleinu me'al tzevareinu, vehu yolichenu kamimiut la'artzeinu.
Amen.
Harachaman, hu yishlach lanu bracha meruba b'ayit hazeh, v'al shulchan zeh sha'alchanu alav.
Amen.
Harachaman, hu yishlach lanu et Eliyahu hanavi. Harachaman, hu yishlach lanu et Eliyahu hanavi zachur latov. Vivaser lanu, vivaser lanu, vivaser lanu, b'shuot tovot, yeshuot v'nechomot.
And now at this time, we will pick the various different passages that are appropriate to you. If you're at your parents' home, if you're at your own family home, or if you're leading a Seder of someone, pick your passage, and then Cantor Josh will then continue.
Harachaman, hu yivarech. Zum gali gali, otam v'yet beitam, v'yet zaram, v'yet kol asher lahem, otanu v'yet kol asher lanu, kemoshe nir baruchu bavotenu, Abraham, Yitzchak, v'Yakov, bakol mikol kol, Ken yivarech otanu kulanu yachad, bivracha shlema, v'nomar amen. Bamarom yelamedu aleihem ve'aleinu zichu shetehei lemishmeret shalom v'nisa v'rachamei Adonai yutziraka Elohei yishenu v'nimtza chen v'seichel tov v'nei Elohim v'yahadam.
Harachaman, hu yanchilenu yom shekulo tov.
Amen.
Harachaman, hu yivarech et midinat Yisrael.
Amen.
Harachaman, yivarech et haaretz hazot.
Amen.
Harachaman, hu yivarech et hatzal v'yishmor aleihem.
Amen.
Harachaman, hu yizaken limot hamashiach, u'lechayei ha'olam haba.
Migdol Yeshuot Malko v'Yosef Chesed Lemshicho LeDavid u'lezaro ad olam Oseh Shalom b'mramav Ho Ya'aseh Shalom Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'yimaru. Amen.
Yiru et Adonai kidoshav, ki ein matzah l're'av, ki firim rashu v'raivo, v'dorshei Adonai lo yachzeru chol tov, hodol Adonai ki tal, ki le'olam chazdo. Poteach et yadecha masbir l'chol chai ratzon, Baruch HaGever Asher Yiftach B'Adonai, V'Haya Adonai Miftacho, Nar Hayiti, Gam Lakanti, V'lo Ra'iti, Tzadik Nezav, Bezaro Mevakesh Lachem Adonai Oz Liamo Yitein Adonai Yivarech et Amo Vashalom.
Hey,
The melody that you just heard, I'm sure was being sung in heaven right now, as our parents, Cantor Ivan and Muriel Perlman of blessed memory, would sit with their 4 sons around the table every Shabbat, and especially at Pesach, as we all would sing those melodies together for people who would come and join with us. What you didn't hear tonight was 4-part harmony, actually the 6-part harmony. But we all heard it in our heads as we are sharing this moment with our family, as we hope that you are with yours at this very time as well. It is time for the 3rd cup. And then we'll get to another very important cup, which Marv will be talking about as well with us, about Eliyahu. But first, the 3rd cup. Remember, we drink it sitting and leaning to the left. Baruch Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei pari hagofen. Again, it's customary. That's why I've gone to, I don't know if my brothers recognize this or not, but I'm using this very large cup that I believe used to sit on our Seder table for Eliyahu. Am I wrong, Josh? Chazan, Cantor?
Probably you are.
Okay. Notice I didn't ask you, Eli.
Rick, I drank out of them all.
Hey, Rabbi Eli, why don't you tell everybody the story of this cup, which I have here, that has been sitting on our table since the beginning of this.
Well, I'm actually going to talk about 2 cups. The first cup that I have here is the cup of Miriam. And this cup is filled with water. And we leave it on the Seder table to show that without Miriam involved with all this, where would we be? We wouldn't have had water. We wouldn't have had anything. She made sure that we had plenty of water and that it tasted good and it was sweet. And not only was Miriam responsible for that, she was also the first chazan, because when they crossed the Sea of Reeds, that Moses and the children of Israel sang together, and then the first chazan sang a solo, and that was Miriam. So we keep this cup of water to show that Miriam gave us the life-needing water that we have, not the kind of water behind me that you can't drink. This was good, fresh, sweet-tasting water.
And she had a sweet, amazing voice, and she truly taka knew nusach. I mean, it was amazing how she knew nusach.
She created
Here it was Sinai Nusach.
Sinai nusach.
He created the nusach. Anyway, they have the cup of Elijah here and Eliyahu, and this cup represents the fact that Elijah goes from house. We see Elijah a lot in our lives. We don't always realize it, but he comes to every bris milah. Elijah's there, and in fact, the chair that you put the baby in is called the seat of Elijah, the chair of Elijah, and that we do that every bris. And then there's the cup of Eliyahu Hanavi.
I guarantee you, though, that not one of the kids that are here tonight remembered sitting in that chair.
Oh, I remember. And I remember it hurt so bad I couldn't walk for a year after that.
And that's why they don't sit in his seat, because they knew what happened the first time.
Well, that's why this cup of Elijah sits full of wine. And Elijah comes in and takes a little sip. And this little boy says, you know, maybe I should take a little sip from this cup of wine that Elijah's going to drink. But maybe I shouldn't. I remember the last time what happened to me when I sat in his chair. But anyway, Elijah comes to every home, and Elijah is the prophet that we believe is going to bring the Mashiach, the Messiah. And that is the harbinger of hope and good things and perfection in the world that God created. And we sing, Eliyahu Hanavi, Eliyahu Hatishbi, Eliyahu, Eliyahu, Eliyahu Hagiladi, Bimhera B'yameinu, Yavo Eleinu, Mashiach ben David, Mashiach ben David, Eliyahu Hanavi, Eliyahu Hagdi, Eliyahu, Eliyahu, Eliyahu Hagiladi. And now
we open the door of our homes and we welcome in Elijah. Do you want to do that in Hebrew, Rabbi Eli, or?
We could do it in English. People
You
might
can do that.
understand.
Why don't you
it.
do that in English, and then Marv is going to pour out your love
Yes.
for the righteous Jew.
Just 1 minute, please. Alexa, open the front door.
Mine just said, I don't know how to do that.
Google, unlock the front door. Google, now open the front door. Pour out your fury. Pour out your fury on the nations that do not know you, upon the kingdoms that do not invoke your name. They have devoured Jacob and desolated his home. Pour out your wrath on them. May your blazing anger overtake them. Pursue them in wrath and destroy them from under the heavens of the Lord.
Marv Wilson.
Pour out your love on the nations who have known you, and on the kingdoms who call upon your name. For they show chesed, loving kindness to the seed of Jacob, and they defend your people Israel from those who would devour them alive. May they live to see the sukkah, the shelter of peace, spread over your chosen ones, and participate in the joy of your nations.
Amen v'amen. Thank you so very much for that. Normally, we don't drink the cup. We look at it and we show it to the children, and they see, oh my goodness, most of mine has already been drunk. I think Elijah came tonight and took a little extra sip from my cup tonight because we have so many people from all over the world watching us on YouTube and Facebook and on Zoom. So it's a miracle. We're going to fill the fourth cup of wine. And as we do that, this will be the fourth, but not the final, although it will be the final from the Haggadah standpoint. But later we will pour a fifth cup in memory of the 6 million, which Professor Wilson will also be helping us with as well. But at this time, we begin Hallel, songs of praise, as we have the fourth cup filled.
You know, I was thinking before I start this that Professor Wilson was talking about how we have to bring these to modern times. And I was thinking, imagine if Pharaoh was if Moses was asking for Pharaoh, let my people go. Pharaoh, let my people go. Pharaoh, let my people go. The Pharaoh looks at Moses and said, you're muted. Lolanu Adonai Lolanu, ki l'shimcha tein kavod, al chastecha limnottecha, lama yomru hagoyim, hayena Eloheihem, ve'Eloheinu v'shamayim kol asher chafetz asa. Atzmeihem kasef Israel betach Adonai Ezram 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 umaginam hu Ezram 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 umaginam hu Beit Aharon bitchu Adonai Ezram 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 umaginam hu Ezram 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 umaginam hu Yirei Adonai bitchu Adonai Ezram 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 umaginam hu Ezram 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 umaginam hu
Adonai Zacharanu Yevarech et Beit Yisrael, Yevarech et Beit Aharon, Yevarech Yirei Adonai, Atanim im Hadolim, Yolem Adonai Aleichem, Aleichem Yameneichem, Beruchim Atem Adonai, Ose Shamayim Baretz, Hashamayim, Shamayim Ladonai, V'ha'aretz Natan Livnei Adam, Lo Ametim Hallelujah, V'lo Kol Yodei Doma, V'ananu Nevarech Ya, Me'ata Me'ad Olam, Me'ata Me'ad Olam, Hallelujah.
Ahavti ki yishma Adonai et kolim. Et alech lifnei Adonai b'artzot hachayim hemanti ki adaber. Ani yiti mahod. Ani amarti v'chavzi kol ha'adam kozei.
Mahashiv Ladonai called to Malay Alai Kos Yeshuot the Saw B'Shem Adonai Akra Nedarai Ladonai Ashalem Negdana Lecholamo Yakahar Beyene Adonai Ahamavta Behachasidim Adonai Ki Ani Avdecha Ani Avdecha Beinam Techa Pitachta Lemoserai Lecha Ezbach Zevach Toda Ubishem Adonai Ekra Nedarai Ladonai Ashalem Negdana Negdana Lechol Amo Bechatzrot Beit Adonai Betochechi Yerushalayim Bechatzrot Beit Adonai Betochechi Yerushalayim Hallelujah 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 Adonai Kol goyim shachbuhu shachbuhu kol haumim ki gavar aleinu chasto ve'emet Adonai le'olam hallelujah.
Hodu Adonai Kito Kileolam Chasto Yomarna Yisrael Kileolam Chasto Yomruna Beit Aharon Kileolam Chasto Yomruna Yirei Adonai כי לעולם חסדו.
Min hametzar karatia, anani v'mechavia. Min hametzar karatia, anani v'mechavia. Anani, anani, anani v'mechavia. Anani, anani, anani v'mechavia. Sabuni gam sabuni bisham sabuni shem. Pitcho pitcho li sharei tzedek avo avo v'meodeya. Pitcho pitcho li sharei tzedek avo avo v'meodeya. Ze ashar Adonai tzadikim yavovo. Ze ashar Adonai tzadikim yavovo.
Odecha ki anitani vatehi li lishua. Odecha ki anitani vatehi li lishua. Even masu habonim haita lerosh pina. Even masu habonim haita lerosh pina. Me'et Adonai haita zot niflat b'einenu. Me'et Adonai haita zot niflat b'einenu. Zeh hayom asa Adonai nagila v'nismechavo. Zeh hayom asa Adonai nagila v'nismechavo.
Hanu Adonai Hoshiana.
Adonai Hoshiana.
Hanu Adonai Hatzlichana.
Anu Adonai Hatzlichana.
Adonai Hatzlichana.
Baruch haba b'shem Adonai, berachnuchem mi beit Adonai. Baruch haba b'shem Adonai, berachnuchem mi beit Adonai. El Adonai vayar lanu, yisru chag bavotim arkanot mizbeach. El Adonai vayar lanu, yisru chag bavotim arkanot mizbeach. Eliata ve'odeka, Elohai aromemeka. Eliata ve'odeka, Elohai aromemecha. Hodu l'Adonai ki tov, ki le'olam chasto. Hodu l'Adonai ki tov, ki le'olam chasto.
Hodu l'Adonai ki tov, ki le'olam chasto. Hodu l'Eloheo Elohim, ki le'olam chasto. Hodu l'Adonai Adonim, ki le'olam chasto. Le'osei nifod gedolo levado, ki le'olam chasto. Le'osei hashamayim bidvono, ki le'olam chasto. Notein lechem lecho basar, ki le'olam chazdo. Hodu le'el hashamayim, ki le'olam chazdo.
Nishma kochai, tivarech et shimcha Adonai Eloheinu, V'ruach kol basar, tifa'er utromem zichracha malkeinu tamid, min haolam v'yad haolam. Atal mibaladecha ein lanu, melech goel u'moshiach poda u'matzil, u'mefarnes u'merachem b'chol eit tzara b'tzuka ein lanu melech, ela ata Elohei HaShem. Miyir melach, u'miyahesh velach, u'miyarech lach. Oel hagadol hagibor v'anora elyon, konei shamayim v'aretz. Nehalel lecha u'neshabechecha, u'nefarechecha nevarech et shem kodshecha kamur. L'dafti barchi nafshi et Adonai, v'chol karavai et shem kodsho.
Hoel v'tatzumot uzecha hagado b'chvod shemecha hagibor lanetzach v'anora b'norotecha Amelech Hayoshev Al Kiseram Benisa.
Yochenad marom v'kadosh shemo v'chatuv ranenu tzadikim Adonai la'yisharim navat tehillah v'shisharim tithalal u'divrei tzadikim titbarach u'vilshon chasidim titromam ובקרב קדושים תתקדש.
ומקלון רבבות עמך בית ישראל, ורינה יתפר שמך מלכנו בכל דור ודור, שכן חובת כל היצורים לפניך אדוני אלוהינו ולאבותינו, להודות להלל לשבח לפאר, לרומם לעדר, לברך עולי ולקלס, על כל דברי שירו ותשבחון, דוד בן ישי, עבדך משיחך.
ישתבח שמך לעד מלכנו. כל המלך הגדול והקדוש בשמיים בארץ כי לכנו ואין אלוהינו ולאבותינו. שיר זכר הלל וזמרה עוז וממשלה נצח גדולה וזמורה ותפילה ותפארת קדושה מלכות ברכות והודאות מעתה ועד העולם. הללו חרן אלוהינו. כי לך טוב להודות ולשמך נועל לזמר כי מעולם ועד עולם אתה ברוך אתה אדוני מלך מהולל ותשבחו.
Amen. Pick up your fourth cup, everybody. Rabbi.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech olam barei peri hagafen.
Amen. We drink the fourth cup, leaning to the left, and we finish this cup. It has been a tradition in our home for many years, unfortunately now, to fill in our house. Of course, you choose whether you want to do this or not. It's up to you. But we fill a fifth cup. This one is for the victims of the Shoah, the Holocaust, those who lived through hell, the terror. And for this cup, normally we sit for every one of them. But for this cup, and I'm calling upon Professor Wilson to lead us in this, but I stand in memory of the 6 million. And this cup I will not drink in leaning to the left because they weren't able to as well. This one I will stand and drink standing in memory of those who perished in the Shoah. Marv, if you would read.
On this night of the Seder, we remember with reverence and love the 6 million of our people of the European exile who perished at the hands of a tyrant more wicked than Pharaoh, who enslaved our forefathers in Egypt. Come, said he to his millions, let us cut them off from being a people, that the name of Israel may be remembered no more. And they slew the blameless and pure men and women and little ones with vapors of poison and burned them with fire. But we abstained from dwelling on the deeds of the evil ones, lest we defame the image of God in which man was created. Now the remnants of our people who were left in the ghettos and camps of annihilation rose up against the wicked ones for the sanctification of Hashem, and slew many of them before they died. On the first day of Passover, the remnants of the ghetto of Warsaw rose up against the adversary, even as in the days of Judah the Maccabee. They were lovely and pleasant in their lives, and in their death they were not divided, and they brought redemption to the name of Israel through all the world. And from the depths of their affliction, the martyrs lifted their voices in a song of faith in the coming of the Messiah, when justice and brotherhood will reign among men.
Before we
Baruch
make this,
atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam al hagefen v'al peri hagefen. Praise are you, Adonai, our God, King of the universe, who creates the fruit of the vine.
Rabbi Rick, listening on the YouTube, I believe, is a woman by the name of Lois Flamholz, who is a survivor. And she last January, not this January, but last January, was among many of the people invited to go to Auschwitz to go back to see where they were in the camps. She was there, and she went back. And the reason she went back was not so much to see it, but because her whole family was murdered there.
Mm.
And she went back to say Kaddish there on that spot, and also El Mole, and she was able to do both. And she comes to our shul every Shabbos. She's there every Yom Tov. And in fact, she always leads our congregation in the prayer for Israel in Hebrew, which is very fitting. So I just wanted to let you all know. And of course, most of you know Judith Sherman, also from our shul, who's another survivor. So at one point in time, when I first came to Monroe, we had about 1,000 members, and almost half of them were survivors. And now, of course, there are very few left. And I hope our children and their children and the children after them say this at their Seder, because we should never, ever forget.
That is so true. We all share, unfortunately, we share with the memories. We have members of our congregation, I'm sure Cantor Josh and Cousin Emmanuel, all sang the Mole for people who remembered their loved ones from the Shoah. We all share that. And one of the great messages that's coming out today is the message of education. We can never forget, and we must never stop teaching the history that befell not only our people, but all people. We must always remind people that hate exists in the world. And without educating them, they'll never know. And that will fade away. And we all know what happens when history fades away. It's not my brilliant saying, but we're doomed to repeat history if we don't know it. And so with that, I make a pledge. In my family, I'm sure in yours, we will continue to drink that fifth cup. And I hope my children and their children's children will continue as well, because we must never forget. We are now going to say the grace after wine, which means we're done drinking wine. Chazan Emmanuel.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, al hagefen ve'al peri hagefen, ve'al tenu v'nasadeh, ve'al eretz kenta tova rechava, sheratzita v'inchalta lavoteinu lechol mipriya, v'lizboa mituva rachem na Adonai Eloheinu ha'Yisrael amecha, ve'al Yerushalayim irecha, ve'al Tzion mishkan kevodecha, ve'al mizbechecha, ve'al heichalecha, ובני ירושלים עיר הקודש, במהרה בימינו, ועלינו לתוכו ושמחנו בבניינה, ונאכל מפריה ונשבע מטובה, ונברכך עליה בקדושה וטהרה, ושמחנו ביום חג מצות הזה, כי אתה אדוני טוב ומיטיב לכל, ונודה לך על הארץ ועל פרי הגפן, ברוך אתה אדוני על הארץ ועל פרי הגפן.
And that concludes that part of the Seder. Well, I think we're getting close to the end. Don't worry. We Jews don't like to end things, do we? Chazan?
Chasal Seder Pesach כהלכתו, ככל משפטו וחוקתו, כאשר זכינו לסדר אותו, כן נזכה לעשותו, זך שוכן מעונה, כל מים כעל הדד ממנה, בקרוב נהל ניתחנה, פדויים לציון בראנה.
As the Passover Seder is concluded according to each traditional detail with all its laws and customs, we have been privileged to celebrate this Seder together. Zoom Gali, Gali, Gali. So may we one day celebrate it together, be Yerushalayim, in Jerusalem, for real. Pure one who dwells in the high places, support your people, countless in number. May you soon redeem all your people joyfully in Zion. Now, it's not over.
Kilo na kilo ya adir bimelucha bachur kahalacha kiduda v'yomru lo lecha 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 ki lecha 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 Adonai hamamlacha kilo na kilo ya Dagul bimelucha hadur kahalacha v'tika v'yomru lo lecha 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 ki lecha 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 Adonai hamamlacha kilo naya kilo yare v'kai bimlucha chasid kahalacha Abstrarav yomru lo lecha 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 ki lecha 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 Adonai hamamlacha kilo nae kilo yae yachid bimelucha kabir kahalacha limuda v'yomru lo lecha 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 ki lecha 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 Adonai hamamlacha, ki lo naya, ki lo yareh. Moshe lebi melucha, no rak halacha, sriva v'yomru lo lecha ulecha, lecha ki lecha, lecha lecha, lecha Adonai hamamlacha, ki lo naya, ki lo yareh. Anav bimelucha podek halacha, tzadika v'yomru lo lecha ulecha, lecha ki lecha, lecha lecha, lecha Adonai hamamlacha, ki lo naya, ki lo yareh. Kadosh bimelucha rachum kahalacha, shina v'yomru lav lecha ulecha, lecha ki lecha, lecha lecha, lecha Adonai hamamlacha, ki lo naya, ki lo yareh. Ki bimelucha tomech kahalacha, temima v'yomru lo lecha ulecha, lecha ki lecha, lecha lecha, lecha Adonai hamamlacha, ki lo naya, ki lo yareh.
Adir ho, yemen ameito bekaro, b'meira, b'yameinu bekaro, el b'nei, b'nei bekaro, bachoro, gadolo, dagolo, yemen ameito bekaro, B'meira, b'yameinu b'karov, el b'nei v'ncha b'karov, adoro, vatiko, zakayo, chasido, yivne v'ito b'karov, b'meira, b'yameinu b'karov, el b'nei v'ncha b'karov, Tahoro, Yachtiro, Kaviro, Lamoro, Melecho, Norao, Sagivo, Izuzo, Bodeo, Tzadiko, Yivne Veito Bekarov, B'meira, b'yameinu Bekarov, El B'nei Veitcha Bekarov, Kadoshu, Rachumu, Shadayu, Takivo, Yivne Veito Bekarov, B'meira, b'yameinu Bekarov, El B'nei Veito Bekarov.
All right, let's keep counting.
Echad mi yodea, echad ani yodea, echad Eloheinu shebashamayim uba'aretz. Shnayim mi yodea, shnayim ani yodea, shnei luchot habrit, echad Eloheinu shebashamayim uba'aretz, shlosha mi yodea, Shosha ani yodea, Shosha avot, Shnei luchot habrit, Echad Eloheinu, Sheba shamayim uba'aretz.
Shnei masar mi yodea, Shnei masar ani yodea, Shnei masar shitaya, 11 kofaya, Sara dibraya, Ishayer cheleda, 8 yemei mila, 7 yemei shabata, 6 sidrei mishna, 5 chushnei Torah, 4 imahot, 3 avot, 2 luchot habrit, Echad Eloheinu shebashamayim uba'aretz. 13 mi yodea, 13 ani yodea, 13 midaya, 12 shitaya, 11 kofaya, Sara dibraya, 9 cheleda, 8 yemei mila, 7 yemei shabata, 6 sidrei mishna, 5 chumrei Torah, 4 imahot, 3 avot, 2 luchot habrit, Echad Eloheinu shebashamayim ובארץ.
It doesn't end. Chad Gadya, Chad Gadya, Dezabina Babit Rezus, Chad Gadya, Chad Gadya. Rabbi,
Eli, you're muted.
Rabbi.
You didn't want to hear that anyway. V'yatashun Rabbi Achla Lagadya, Dezabin Nababit Rezus, Chad Gadya, Chad Gadya.
V'yata malacha mavet, v'shachat l'shochet, v'shachat l'torah, v'shata l'maya, v'chava l'nura, v'tzarach l'chutra, v'hika l'chalba, v'nashach l'shunra, v'yachla l'gadya, v'zabin nababit rezuz, echad gadya, chad gadya.
ואתה קדוש ברוך הוא משחר למלחמה ומשחר לתורה תשעת למאי דחה ולנורה תשרב לחוטרה דהיקה לחלבה דנשרה לשונרה תיאחלה לגדיה דזבינה בבין רזוזי חד גדיה חד גדיה.
Before we finish this, I would like to say something in all seriousness. You know, back in December, at the end of December, I broke my foot and my ankle and my leg, the whole Geschäfte. And so many of you, not just from my shul, but from Temple Ner Tamid and other places, sent in donations to your synagogues. There were so many of you, there's no way I could have responded to you all in person. But I want to thank you all so much for the donations that you gave in my honor. It obviously worked. And we're holding another fundraiser on April 7th because I'm having my shoulder replaced, which is what I was supposed to have in the first place. So I encourage you all to donate a lot more to your shuls and to keep them all healthy and wealthy. And if it bleeds onto me, I would appreciate it too. That would be nice because I understand the shoulder is worse than the knee and the hips that I also had replaced already. So, but I can't do too many more of these fundraisers because I don't have that many more parts to replace. So keep the cards and letters coming in. And I really, really, truly appreciate it. It was so nice of you all. Okay.
Professor Wilson, we want to thank you so much. Before we say L'Shana Haba'ah, we want to thank you so much for being a part of this beautiful ceremony tonight, this beautiful Seder, unforgettable Seder. You are such a mensch. You are such a gift to us. And I look forward to next year doing this together with hugs and in person. So thank you for that.
Boy, that would be great.
That would be awesome. Rabbi, it says E first.
L'shana haba b'Yerushalayim.
L'shana haba b'Yerushalayim.
L'shana haba. I got to leave you something, Josh.
I was just going to do it again.
B'Yerushalayim.
L'shana haba b'Yerushalayim.
I'm telling you, mother always loved you best.
I don't blame her.
To our parents, to all of you, to everybody out there, the Shana Haba'ah B'Yerushalayim, Chag Sameach, everyone be healthy, be safe. Let's put an end to this pandemic. Let's put an end to this and let us all be together next year. Chazan,
Again, tomorrow morning is services, second day of Pesach. It's Yontif services. Don't forget to come.
9 o'clock.
Also, I want to say that throughout COVID, I have been attending my brother's services, and they really have been remarkable. And it's really difficult sometimes for the clergy, the Klei Kodesh, to be able to be given the proper respect and honor and covet. And with all the jokes aside, I have to commend them on continuing to keep everyone so engaged. I've enjoyed being with them weekly, and I just can't thank them enough, and the beautiful congregations that they're associated with. And again, Professor Wilson, I had the privilege of sitting with him at a table, and we had such a wonderful conversation, so memorable. And the way he speaks, it touches my heart and my neshama. And I have to tell you that in so many respects, you are also a chosen person. And you may not be part of the chosen people, but anytime you want to join with us, we'll give you honorary membership because you are really spectacular. So thank you so much.
Manny, you're muted.
Thank God.
And Josh has the final word. I told you, mother loves him best. Everybody, Chag Sameach.
Thank you.
Chag Sameach.
See you tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. Chag Sameach, everybody.
Take care.